Welcome from EURACTIV. My name is Luca Bertuzzi, Digital and Media Editor, and this is the Digital Brief podcast. Today we take a closer look at Germany, which is going through crucial elections this Sunday. After 16 years of uninterrupted Merkel rule over the country, how will the new government affect the digital policy in the most important European economy, as well as at the EU level? For an overview of all things digital in the EU, sign up to our free newsletter or visit the website EURACTIV.com. This is EURACTIV's Digital Brief podcast. Today I'm joined by Oliver Noyan, our correspondent in Berlin. Hello, Oliver.
Pleasure to be here, Luca.
So we are here to discuss the German elections. First of all, how big is the digital transition in this electoral campaign?
Yes, digital transition is one of the hottest topics in Germany. You don't see it that much in the debates, basically because it's really technical, and many people, they don't understand all of those technical issues. But in their party programs and in the agenda of the parties, it's really on the top of the list. And yeah, that's basically a huge change compared to the last election, because in the last election, basically the only party who really put digitalization on top of the agenda was the liberal FDP. And now all of the other major parties, maybe with the exception of the Left Party, jumped on the bandwagon and really tried to push forward on multiple digital fronts.
So what are the key issues in digital terms that are being discussed right now?
So let's start with the most basic one. So in 2017, current Chancellor Angela Merkel warned that Germany might become a developing country in the digital world. So since then, a lot has happened, but there are still a lot of gaps remaining, especially in infrastructure. So to give you kind of a more lively example of this, the current economic minister is never taking calls while he is in the car because he's embarrassed about the bad connection he's having with his phone. Another big topic is, of course, research, where they really want to ensure that Germany will remain at the front line in research, because this is one of the areas where Germany is still pretty decent internationally. Then another area, of course, is manufacturing and in general, digital businesses, where Germany is lagging behind or lost its posture in recent years. And here they really want to ensure that digital sovereignty is guaranteed by having digital champions here in Germany.
One of the main criticism that was made to Angela Merkel was the low public investments. Do you think this is a trend that is going to change with the new government?
Nobody really knows where Germany will stand, because we never had an election like this where there are so many options of coalitions on the table. So it will largely depend on who will be in office. If the SPD will manage to become the Chancellor Party, the leading party in government, they will definitely push for more investment in the infrastructure sector. One of the changes I see, for instance, is the establishment of a digital ministry. This is one of the main topics of the FDP. They have it for years, and other parties like the SPD and the CDU are also in favor of a digital ministry. But it really depends. The Greens, for instance, are against it. But this could be something of a game changer in Germany, especially when it comes to cooperation between the different coordination between the different ministries, because this has been a constant issue. The thing in digital policy is there is huge agreement on general topics, yet devil's in the details. So the parties, all of them agree, for instance, that we have to have digital sovereignty. But the path how to get to digital sovereignty on the German and European level is completely different between the parties. The same goes for content moderation or competition policy, for instance.
What is the main position of the SPD and the Green Party as opposed to the CDU for what concerns digital sovereignty?
Actually, the views of the CDU and the SPD, they're pretty close, which is not surprising considering that they have been in a coalition for quite some time now. So basically what they want to do is to have multifold approach where they have public investment, public funding, to incentivize private investments to get digital businesses to Germany and to Europe as a whole. The Greens have like a slightly different approach. They really emphasize the so-called Brussels effect, that Germany and especially the EU should be one of the forerunners internationally when it comes to regulation of the digital sector, and that the EU would thereby export their regulatory model to other countries.
And in terms of content moderation, what are the main differences?
But when it comes to content moderation, there are basically the SPD and the CDU who want to continue the current route. They continuously present the national legislation on content moderation, the so-called Network Enforcement Act, as a blueprint for the Digital Services Act that's currently being debated on the European Union level. And they basically want the Network Enforcement Act to stay the way it is and to tackle hate speech and illegal content through the Network Enforcement Act, but also focus on the DSA, of course. Then you have the Green Party. The Green Party, they want the Digital Services Act and also the Network Enforcement Act to be more rigid. So, for instance, they want to include things like Telegram or WhatsApp in the whole content moderation and to tackle hate speech. But I don't really know how that's supposed to go, because they really heavily are in favor of encryption.
Let's talk about competition law now, because Germany has been trying to take a leading role in the Digital Markets Act, the EU legislation to regulate tech giants. It has been working with the Dutch and French government on common papers, pushing for stronger involvement of national authorities in the enforcement, as well as stricter rules in terms of obligations for the gatekeepers.
Germany has a long history when it comes to regulating competition. And they were one of the first countries to really try to tackle the problem and to pass a competition law that really addresses the problem of digital giants. They have done this in the so-called GVB, which is basically the competition law. And they also presented as kind of a blueprint for Europe. Germany has the opinion that they want to retain the power to regulate digital giants on the competition side. Because as the DMA currently stands, like that, it doesn't leave any leeway for national legislation in the same field, and especially the GVB and the Article 19a that's considered to be like the game changer in Germany would probably be overwritten by the DMA. So they really fear that they would lose the tech grip on those kind of things. So that's the reason why they're really pushing for more leeway for national legislators.
And is this approach likely to remain the same in a SPD Green coalition?
Yes. So there's actually, when it comes to the GVB and the regulation of digital giants, there is really a broad consensus among parties. So even when the GVB passed, it was passed with the votes of the Greens, for instance, and the FDP at least didn't vote against it. So that already tells a lot that it has a wide support across party lines.
So the issue of data retention has been a key point of contention in the negotiation around the e-privacy directive. What is the view of Germany on this?
Well, so when it comes to data retention and surveillance, you basically only have the CDU who's actively advocating for data retainment and the use of facial recognition. The SPD is like a little bit in between. So they passed a law on data retention, for instance, that's currently being assessed by the ECJ. But they really want to strike the balance. The other parties, like especially the FDP and the Greens, who are strongly opposing any usage of facial recognition, as well as data retention. So there you really have the dividing line between like the CDU, who is strongly in favor, the SPD, which is kind of in between, because they pass a lot of laws regarding facial recognition and data retention together with the CDU. And then you have basically the FDP and the Green Party who strongly oppose it.
That's all we got time for this week. Don't forget to sign up to our free Digital Brief newsletter. to receive a comprehensive overview on all things digital. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, published on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and Amazon Music. I'm your Luca Bertuzzi, and thank you for listening.